Are you real? Is any of this real? How do you know? Today we will get into the likelihood that you and I are living in a computer simulation and what it all means for spirituality. So stick around. What's up guys, Namo Himalaya, Stephan Piel here. I'm a communication scholar, media literacy advocate, and law of attraction practitioner. And today we are going to get a little trippy and talk about whether we are living in base reality, meaning actual physical reality, or if we are trapped inside a simulation. Now, when I talk about simulations in this manner, it probably seems like a relatively new concept. People's minds often jump to computers and the Matrix, or to the realm of science fiction in general, which, when put in perspective among the whole of human history, are all pretty recent inventions. But the idea that we are living in a fabricated, simulated reality is far from new. In 380 BCE, Plato published his allegory of the cave. In it, he describes a world in which men are kept captive and forced to look at shadow puppet plays projected on the wall of the cave. Chained by the neck, they are unable to turn their heads away, and they believe that the images they see projected on the wall are reality. When one man escapes and ventures out into the real world, he begins to see the truth once his eyes adjust to the sunlight. He returns to tell the others, but they don't believe him, and they actually threaten to kill him if he tries to set them free. They're too preoccupied with their games, with venerating those who are fastest among them to spot what's occurring with the shadow puppets. Knowing the truth of the world, the man no longer has any interest in these games of illusion, and now realizes how foolish he was for admiring the master players, since they had no real knowledge of the world after all. In the 3rd century BCE, ancient Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi wrote of his now famous butterfly dream. In the story, he recounts how he once vividly dreamt of being a butterfly, blissfully fluttering through the air, carefree and happy, unaware that he was Zhuangzi. He then writes, "Soon I awaked, and there I was, veritably myself again." With both experiences feeling equally real, the story raised the question, was Zhu a man dreaming of being a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming of being a man? How could he know which one was actually true? You probably know the famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am," or cogito ergo sum in its original Latin, written by 17th century French philosopher René Descartes. Descartes was preoccupied with discovering what can be known with absolute certainty. He realized senses were unreliable because they can mislead you. Think about how a straw looks bent in water, or how an object far away appears really tiny. He imagined that there could be an evil demon controlling his thoughts and creating the illusion of an external world. He wrote, "I shall think that the sky, the air, the earth, colors, shapes, sounds, and all external things are merely the delusions of dreams, which the demon has devised to ensnare my judgment. I shall consider myself not having hands or eyes or flesh or blood or senses, but as falsely believing I have all these things." Descartes thus concludes that the only thing he can be truly certain of is that he is a thinking being, because even in this hypothetical simulated world controlled by this evil demon, he's still having these thoughts, this internal dialogue. So for as long as humanity has recorded its thoughts, it has pondered the nature of its existence. The computer simulation theory follows this tradition. The theory was originally coined by Nick Bostrom in his 2003 paper, "Are You Living in a Simulation?" It assumes one of the following 3 assumptions to be true. Either humanity destroys itself before developing the technology needed to create simulated realities, technology evolves but humanity has no interest in creating ancestral simulations, or we are currently living in a simulation. So the idea being that whether it be 100 years from now or 10,000 years from now, technology will eventually reach the point where we have the computing power to create simulations that are indistinguishable from physical reality. Bostrom reasons that a society with such a technology would likely run ancestral simulations. This could be sociologists and anthropologists studying the past, historians running alternate outcomes to major historical events, or presuming a simulation only takes up a fraction of the available computing power, it could be something as simple as a sim-style game, like a digital ant farm, just for funsies. It stands to reason that a sufficiently advanced simulated society would eventually also reach the point where it created its own simulations. This would mean layers of different realities exist within one another simultaneously. Put these seemingly infinite potential simulated realities up against the one and only base reality, and you can see how the likelihood of us living in a simulation increases significantly. The theory has since gained popularity among respected scientific minds like DeGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk, with Elon Musk going as far as to say that the odds we are in base reality is 1 in billions. Now, that's not necessarily accurate. using Bayesian inference, which is basically a formula that incorporates prior information to determine statistical probability. Others have put those odds more around 50-50. What is interesting though, is that if we eventually do invent the technology to create realistic simulations, then using those same calculations but accounting for that fact in the formula, the likelihood of us living in a simulation skyrockets from 50-50 to more near Elon's odds. He makes a compelling argument that if you look at how quickly technology has advanced from 1980 to now, assuming technology continues advancing in this manner, humanity will create simulations indistinguishable from reality relatively soon. Even if our technological abilities advance at just 1% of the current rate, reaching this milestone is still well within the likely future of the human race. So if you believe humanity will ever reach a point where they have the means and the desire to create ancestral simulations, then that means there is a very good chance we are already currently in one. Now, simulation theory doesn't posit we're living in some Matrix-style reality as human battery cells for our AI overlords. Given that humans consume more energy than they put out, I think it's a safe assumption that that's not the case. It's actually more similar to Descartes and his demon. Like the demon, the computer would trick us into thinking we're made of organic material, when in actuality we're all code, with no basis in physical reality at all. In theory, consciousness does not necessarily require a physical body. If you could map out the body and program synapses to fire, genes to express themselves, and algorithms to determine behavior, along with sufficient computing power to process all the inhabitants' thoughts, to the point that a digital character is exercising free will and using critical thought, then consciousness can effectively be digitized. The universe is governed by mathematical laws, so it's easy to imagine it could be translated into digital code. Our DNA is code. The Fibonacci sequence, also known as the golden ratio, appears all throughout our makeup and all throughout nature. Magic geometry lends itself nicely to the idea that this is all just some sort of computer program. Now, as interesting as I find this topic, I personally don't actually believe we are living in a computer-simulated facsimile of some original-based reality, but I do believe this world is not all there is to reality. String theory asserts that our universe actually operates within 10 dimensions, of which we as humans only perceive 4: length, width, depth, and time. So what data are we missing out on in these higher dimensions? And would it completely reshape our current understanding of the world? Reality as we currently perceive it is Maya. It's an illusion. The idea that we are all separate beings from one another, that our ego and our body make up all that we are. If we lift the veil, we see that pure divine conscious energy is all there is. Everything is Brahman. The only truth, the only persistent constant is Atma, your inner divinity, that universal energy that flows through you and gives you your spark of life. The oneness of all things, both manifested and unmanifested, as part and parcel of the divine, is the truest reality. But knowing this doesn't lessen how real this reality feels for those experiencing life's hardships. Simulated or not, illusion or not, we should all still do our best to be the kindest and most loving individuals that we can be, and to spread as much light and positivity as possible. Because the one thing we know with absolute certainty is that we're all here together sharing this reality right now. And how we treat each other matters. Well guys, thank you so much for watching. I love diving into topics like this and sharing the most interesting stuff I find out with you guys. If you learned anything at all from this video, or if you found it entertaining, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe. And don't forget to hit that little notifications button too, because I'm committed to bringing you 3 new videos a week, so we can all continue learning, growing, and not only survive, but thrive in 2022 and beyond. Thank you. Love you.